Hello everyone and welcome to the lesson. The subject is boardroom dynamics. Today we'll start revising the paper that was examined in April 2022. We're going to start with the case study, which is titled HGS Limited. I read, HGS Limited is one of the supermarkets that has a large market share in retail business in East and Southern African region. Established 5 years ago in Kenya, HGS has 21 outlets and over 5,000 employees. HGS generally generates slightly over 20 billion in revenue annually. Paragraph 2. The board of HGS is aware that in the recent past, two of the largest supermarkets had exited the market and the other one was struggling due to the financial challenges. Paragraph 3. Aggressive expansion to increase presence in the region seemed to have been their strategic mistake. These supermarkets seemed too big to fail from the expansive reach and penetration in the market. Their failures affected several businesses in the value chain due to their inability to settle their debts. Business analysts and the media have argued the supermarket which went under had weak governance structures and their boards were making poor strategic business decisions. The board of HGS was also aware that boards and management of these retail companies were not inherently bad or in some way set upon being part of these corporate disasters. I repeat, the board of HGS was also aware that the boards and management of these retail companies were not inherently bad or in some way set upon being part of these corporate disasters. Paragraph 4. These organizations remain a reminder, if one is needed, that corporate failure could occur if those in charge lose their way. The board of HGS is interested in understanding why the boards of these retailers fail to detect warning signs during the early stages of failure, and if they indeed detected warning signals, why they decided to remain passive. In addition to the board wishes to find out why some supposedly talented and experienced boards often fail to intervene effectively in failing organizations despite their strategic position. The next paragraph reads, to address these concerns and others in order to enhance corporate governance in the firm, the board has requested you as a governance professional to examine the dynamics and challenges that may have confronted the boards of directors of these failed firms as failure progressed from one stage to another. From an in-depth study of available data on these firms and from other credible sources, you obtain the following information. 1. Generally, failure starts with the initial or pre-failure stage and is often brought by management inability to spot or underestimate early warning signals that indicate a potential threat to the organization's future survival. Number 2, there is consensus in the failure literature that each state of failure raises different organizational challenges. 3, an effective handling of failure requires management to use appropriate intervention strategies targeted at the unique challenges faced at that particular stage of failure. 4, Weisel and Johnson's 5-stage model shows that failure typically starts with blinded management, then inaction, followed by faulty action, then crisis, and finally dissolution. Next point. While management behaviors, roles, and power vary across life cycle stages, several behavioral factors such as the power of CEO through social networks and relationships have profound implications on board decision-making processes. Next point. Boards and directors fulfill their fiduciary duty to the shareholders by overseeing and monitoring CEOs and management actions, vetoing poor decisions to protect the interests of shareholders, and assisting advising management in their efforts to increase shareholders' wealth. Next point, from unbroken chain of bad decisions over a period of time, boards of directors are supposed to draw upon their collective wisdom to spot some of the bad decisions and break the chain of errors before they spiral out of control. Next point, the role of the board is to assess the risk of each strategy. Data from collapsed supermarkets showed the 4 stages of organizational failure, management action, and board dynamics as follows. 1 is the conceptual stage. Under conceptual stage, point number 1, management made a chain of mistakes that and there was no deliberate attempt to involve the board when it was decided to expand into areas in which they had little or no experience. That is conceptual stage. Number 2, boards of directors exhibited groupthink mentality, blind faith in management, and failed to execute their corporate duties. Number 3, key outcomes included destruction of shareholders' value. The next stage is known as the warning signal stage. Point 1, management had started taking high-risk decisions and CEOs had started deliberate attempts to hide the warning signals and influence the boards to approve high-risk strategies. Number 2, boards of directors were not aware of the magnitude of crisis. They ignored initial signals and continued to have blind faith in management as the shareholder value continued to decline. The next stage is the rebellion stage. Management was chasing high risks that had short-term impact, showed intolerance of dissent, and focused on marginalization and management of dissenting directors. The last stage is the collapse stage. Under that we read, management ignored negative feedback and ultimate result was business failure. Required: A, evaluate 6 common board inefficiencies that might cause failure of HGS, 12 marks. Evaluate 6 common board inefficiencies that might cause failure of HGS. We are first going to answer that part of the question. April 2022, question 1. This is the case study. I implore you to go through the case study one more time, understand all the aspects of the case study, then you can come back so that we answer the questions together. Part A. Evaluate 6 common board inefficiencies. 6 common board inefficiencies that might cause failure of HGS. Now, one obvious common board inefficiency is lack of independence. Inefficiency is lack of independence. Lack of independence. If board members have a close personal or financial ties to the company's management, their independence may be compromised, leading to potential conflicts of interest and biased decision making. So it's important that the board members maintain independence by refraining from being too close in person to the management, or having financial ties to the company, financial ties to the company's management, because that can lead to compromised decisions. Their independence may be compromised, leading to potential conflicts of interest and biased decision making. Number 2, groupthink. Now, board members may fall into a groupthink mentality where dissenting opinions are discouraged and critical discussions are avoided. And that can result in poor decision making as alternative viewpoints and potential risks are overlooked. Groupthink is a common board inefficiency where board members fall into groupthink mentality, where dissenting opinions are discouraged. That is one common board inefficiency. 2, inadequate risk oversight. Inadequate risk oversight. Failure to proactively identify and assess risks can leave the company vulnerable to unforeseen challenges. So boards should assess risks, should actively participate in risk oversight, and ensure that appropriate risk management strategies are put in place. So inadequate risk management is a common board inefficiency. Insufficient expertise. Insufficient expertise. Boards that lack diversity or in terms of skills and experience may struggle to address complex challenges effectively. And having a board with a diverse range of expertise can bring fresh perspectives and better decision making. So insufficient expertise is a common board inefficiency. 5, we can also cite passive board engagement. Passive board engagement. If board members are disengaged or rely too heavily on management for information, they may miss warning signals or even fail to adequately challenge management's decisions. And we read here that could be one of the cause of failure of the other supermarkets. Relying on, passively relying on information for management is a common board inefficiency. So candidates were to give 6. Now the 6th one could be poor communication. Poor communication. And information flow. Poor communication and information flow. Inefficient communication between the board and management can hinder the board's ability to understand the company's true financial and operational health. So there ought to be transparent and timely information, which is essential for effective decision making. So if there is poor communication and information flow between the management and the board, then that is a common board inefficiency. So these are 6 points, 12 marks. 6 points, 12 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 marks. Part B of the question reads, under each of the 4 stages of organizational failure, discuss board dynamics which could be present in the boardrooms of the failed supermarkets. I repeat, under each of the 4 stages of organizational failure, discuss board dynamics which could be present in the boardrooms of the failed supermarkets. So we read 4 stages. the conceptual stage, the warning signal stage, rebellion stage, and collapse stage. So candidates were to give under each of the 4 stages to discuss board dynamics. This is B. Part B, we are to discuss board dynamics under each of the stages, starting from the conception stage. Conceptual stage. Now, candidates, under the conceptual stage, we read here that data from collapsed supermarkets showed the 4 stages of organizational failure, management action, and board dynamics as follows. Under conception stage, we read management made a chain of mistakes and there was no deliberate attempt to involve the board when it was decided to expand into areas in which they had little or no experience. Number 2, boards of directors exhibited groupthink mentality, blind faith in management, and failed to execute their corporate duty. So the one dynamic we can read directly from the question here is groupthink mentality. Groupthink mentality. Number 1 is groupthink mentality. Groupthink mentality. The board exhibits a lack of critical thinking and blind support. It supports the management blindly without conducting thorough due diligence on expansion plans. This is what happened. We've read that the management made a chain of mistakes and there was no deliberate attempt to involve the board when it was decided to expand in areas in which they had no. Then number 2, we read the board exhibited groupthink mentality, blind faith. That means the board of directors did not carry out due diligence. Blind faith in management and failed to execute their corporate duties. And done what? And failed to execute their corporate duties. So failure in corporate duties is another dynamic. Failure in corporate duties. That's another board dynamic. All right? The board fails to execute its fiduciary duties, such as challenging management strategy and assessing the risks involved in expansion. Exhibited groupthink, blind faith, and failed to execute their corporate duties. That is at the conception stage. Board dynamics at the conception stage. Then there is the warning signal stage. Warning signal stage. Warning signal stage. Warning. What were the board dynamics at this stage? The group dynamics at this stage. Candidates, we read under warning signal stage that management had started taking high-risk decisions and CEOs had started deliberate attempts to hide the warning signals and influenced boards to approve high-risk strategies. So management has started taking high risk, all right? Then we also read that boards of directors were not aware of the magnitude of the crisis. The boards of directors were not aware of the magnitude of the crisis. So that the dynamics there is lack of awareness. Lack of awareness. Number one, lack of awareness. I'm picking the answers directly from the question. Lack of awareness. We read here the management, the board were not aware of the magnitude of the crisis. That is lack of awareness. The board remained unaware of the magnitude of the crisis and ignored the early signs, ignored the warning signs, ignored the early signs, warning signals that indicated potential risks. Then under warning sign, one is signal. We read that the boards were not aware of the crisis. They ignored the initial signals and continued to have blind faith in management. Blind faith in management is another dynamic there. Blind faith in management. Blind faith in management. The board had blind faith in management as the shareholder value continued to decline. The board continued to trust management despite the declining shareholder value, leading to failure to intervene effectively. So these are the dynamics at the warning stage. Then there is a next stage, which is the rebellion stage. Rebellion stage. The rebellion stage. Now, at the rebellion stage, we read that management was chasing high risks that had short-term impact, showing intolerance of dissent, and focused on marginalization and punishment of dissenting directors. Right? That is intolerance. Intolerance. All right? Intolerance of dissent. Intolerance of dissent is one dynamic. Intolerance of dissent. Intolerance of dissent. The board became intolerant of dissenting views and did not encourage open discussions, leading to lack of diverse perspectives in decision making. So that is what happened at the rebellion stage. Management was chasing high risks that had short-term impact, showed intolerance of dissent, and focused on marginalization. Focused on marginalization and punishment of dissenting directors. That is marginalization of dissenters. Marginalization of dissenting directors. That is the board dynamics at the rebellion stage. Marginalization of dissenters. Management suppressed dissenting directors' voices, limiting the board's ability to consider alternative strategies. When you marginalize and punish dissenting directors, then you are avoiding alternative perspectives from those who are dissenting. So that is the rebellion stage. Those are the dynamics at the rebellion stage. Then we have the last stage, which is the collapse stage. The collapse stage. The collapse stage. What were the dynamics at the collapse stage? We read that management ignored negative feedback and the ultimate result was business failure. Do you see that? Ignored negative feedback. So ignoring negative feedback is the dynamic. Ignoring negative feedback. Ignoring of negative feedback. The board ignored negative feedback. The board ignored warnings leading to failure, to corrective action. Management ignored negative feedback. The management ignored negative feedback. Ignoring of negative feedback. And due to the fact that the management ignored negative feedback, it then lacked accountability. You understand? Lack of accountability. Then that led to lack of accountability. And the failure to hold management accountable for poor decisions and performance allowed the situation to worsen. Lack of accountability allowed the situation to worsen. So that is the dynamics at the collapse stage. So we've answered question, this is question A. Question A, question B, 8 marks. Question B, 8 marks. The board dynamics at the conception stage, we have cited group think mentality. Group think mentality. There is failure in corporate duties. These are fiduciary duties. Then at the board dynamics at the warning signal stage, lack of awareness. Then there is blind faith in management. The dynamics at the rebellion stage, we have intolerance of dissent and marginalization of dissenting directors. At the collapse stage, the board dynamics, ignoring negative feedback and lack of accountability. That is part B of the question. Moving on to part C, we read, for each stage identified in B above, summarize key measures the board of HGS should use to prevent or reverse organizational failure. C, Roman 1. Measures to reverse organizational failure. What are the measures that could reverse organizational failure? That is the question. And the question is for each stage identified. For each stage identified. First of all, we have the conception stage. Conception stage. What measures could reverse organizational failure at the conception stage? Here we saw that the organization failed to carry out due diligence. We read that management, at the conception stage, management made a chain of mistakes and there was no deliberate attempt to involve the board when it was decided to expand into areas in which they had little or no experience. Board of directors exhibited groupthink mentality and failed to execute their mandate. There was no due diligence here, candidates, and therefore, one way measure to reverse organizational failure at the conception stage is to conduct comprehensive due diligence. Conduct comprehensive due diligence. 1. conduct comprehensive due diligence. The board should conduct comprehensive due diligence at the conception stage to reverse organizational failure. That's one thing the organization can do. The board should conduct thorough due diligence before approving expansion plans. The board should assess potential risks and benefits. Conduct. These are how many points? It should just be 1 point. We've mentioned one. Then at the warning signal stage, warning signal stage, what should the management do to reverse organizational at warning signal stage? We read at warning signal stage that management had started taking high-risk decisions, and CEOs had started a deliberate attempt to hide the warning signals and influence the board to approve high-risk strategies. It influenced the board to do what? To approve high-risk strategies. So the one measure here is to enhance board awareness, because we also read that the board of directors were not aware. So one measure there is to enhance board awareness. Enhance board awareness. The board was not aware of some of the decisions that the management made. So the board should actively seek and analyze early signs and also encourage open communication between the board and the management. That is one measure to take at the warning signal stage. The next stage is the rebellion stage. What measure should be taken at the rebellion stage? We read that at the rebellion stage, management was chasing high risks that had short-term impact, showed intolerance of dissent, and focused on marginalization and punishment of dissenting directors. So what do you think should be the measure there? The obvious measure there is to encourage open debate, promote open debate. To counter that, promote open debate. Instead of suppressing dissenting voices, promote open debate. Encourage a culture of constructive debate and diverse perspectives in board discussions, ensuring that all directors' voices are heard. Another way is to ensure board independence. Ensure the board operates independently from management, allowing for objective assessment of high-risk strategies. That is what can be done at the rebellion stage. Then at the collapse stage, what measure can be taken at the collapse stage? We read that at the collapse stage, management ignored negative feedback, and the ultimate result was business failure. Management ignored negative feedback. That is to do with evaluation. The best measure there is to implement regular performance evaluations. Implement regular performance evaluation or reviews. Implement regular performance reviews. Implement regular performance reviews. Conduct regular performance evaluations for management, as well as board members, to assess their effectiveness and identify areas for improvement. Another measure there could be fostering accountability. Foster accountability. Foster accountability. Because here we read that here at the collapse stage, there was lack of accountability. So the corrective measure is to foster accountability. Hold management accountable for their decisions. Hold management what? Accountable for their decisions and actions, and ensure that there are consequences for poor performance. So these are the measures, the key measures the board can use to prevent or reverse organizational failure. One, at the conception stage, conduct comprehensive due diligence. At the warning stage, enhance board awareness. At the rebellion stage, promote open debate. At the collapse stage, can foster accountability or implement regular performance reviews. These are 4 marks. 4 marks. That is C Roman 1. Then we have C Roman 2. This was C Roman 1. C Roman 1. Then we move on to C Roman 2. What is the question? Explain how regular board evaluation at HGS Limited could have contributed to organizational sustainability. We saw that HGS is a company that is doing well, apart from the competitors who are experiencing problems. We read that HGS is one of the supermarkets that has a large market share in retail business in East and Southern African region. Established 5 years ago in Kenya, HGS has 21 outlets and over 5,000 employees. HGS generates slightly over 20 billion in revenue annually. All right. So the question here is, how regular board evaluations could have contributed to organizational sustainability. HGS is still in operation, but its competitors have gone under. HGS has been conducting regular board evaluation. So explain how regular board evaluation could have contributed to organizational sustainability. That is a question. How that is the question. How regular board evaluation contributed to organizational sustainability at HGS Limited. Now, one way is identifying weaknesses. It is through board evaluation that weaknesses of the board can be identified. Board evaluation is the same as board assessment. When the performance of the board is assessed, is evaluated, then it's possible to identify weaknesses. Board evaluations help to identify weaknesses. It helps to identify inefficiencies. It helps to identify gaps in board performance, enabling the board to address the issues proactively instead of waiting up to the collapse stage. Because here we said implement regular board reviews. If the other companies were to implement regular board reviews, then they could be sustainable. But they are not sustainable because they failed to implement regular performance reviews. But HGS has been carrying out regular performance reviews. And one way in which that has helped the company to remain afloat is because regular reviews help the company identify weaknesses and inefficiencies, which can then be proactively be addressed. That is point number one. Number two, we are discussing ways in which board evaluations contributed to organizational sustainability at HGS. Board evaluation also can enhance diversity. Enhances diversity. Board diversity. Enhances board diversity. Evaluation can highlight the need for more diverse for a more diverse board, ensuring broader range of perspectives in decision making. Because when carrying out board evaluation, board diversity is one of the areas that has to be assessed. And when after assessing board evaluation, then after assessing board diversity, then the company can enhance board diversity. The evaluation can highlight the need for a more diverse board. After assessing the board's diversity, the board can identify areas or skills or competencies which are required, because an assessment can reveal the need for diverse skills or competencies. 2, improves or enhances communication. Improves communication. Board evaluations can assess communication processes and help improve the flow of information between the board and management. We saw in the companies that failed that there was an information gap. There was poor information, communication and information flow from management to the board. And when carrying out board evaluation, one area in which evaluation can be done is in communication processes, particularly between the board and the management. And after carrying out board evaluation and there is a deficiency or inefficiency in terms of in the communication processes, that can be improved or corrected. But if evaluation is not carried out, it may not be possible to identify the gaps in information processes or communication processes. Four, strengthens risk oversight. Board evaluation can strengthen risk oversight. Evaluations can assist or board assessment, in other words, I'm saying board assessments can assess the board's risk oversight capabilities and then lead to development of more effective risk management strategies. You understand? Board evaluation can strengthen risk oversight, can strengthen risk oversight. Explain how regular board evaluation could have contributed to organizational sustainability. So these are some of the ways. 1, identifying weaknesses. 2, enhance diversity, improves communication, strengthens risk management. Candidates were to give 3 points to earn 6 marks or 4 points to earn 1.5 marks, total 6 marks. That is part C, Roman 2. D, I read, discuss 5 ways of planning and conducting effective board meetings at HGS Limited. 10 marks. Ways of planning and conducting. Ways of planning and conducting board meetings. This question has been repeated many times. When discussing meetings, the first thing that comes to mind is agenda. Clear agenda. You cannot have a meeting without agenda. Develop clear and focused meetings agendas in collaboration with the board chair and management, and ensure that key strategic issues are prioritized. Then you cannot have the board members having meetings without information or materials. There ought to be timely distribution of materials. Timely distribution of materials. Timely distribution of materials. Distribute materials for the meeting well in advance to allow board members ample time to review and prepare for the meeting. That will then ensure productive discussions during the meeting. These materials could be reports, financial reports, and so on. Then the third way of planning and conducting a board meeting is efficient use of technology. We heard that this is a big company spread across East and Southern Africa region. This company could be having directors from many parts of the region. So the company can make proper use of technology, efficient use of technology. The company can embrace technology for virtual board meetings or to facilitate real-time updates during in-person meetings. Why? Because technology can enhance communication and collaboration. We talked about distribution of materials. The company can take advantage of technology to distribute materials to the shareholders and so on. So efficient use of technology can be a way in which the company can plan and conduct board meetings. The fourth way, active participation. Active participation. The chairman should encourage active participation from all board members, ensuring that everyone has an opportunity to contribute and share their insights. To avoid what we saw at the conception stage, the groupthink mentality. One way to address groupthink mentality is to ensure that everyone contributes, every board member contributes, including those who are dissenting. Ensure that everyone has an opportunity to contribute and share their insights. Then lastly, post-meeting follow-up. Post-meeting follow-up. The chair should provide concise and accurate meeting minutes. The chair should ensure that there is provision of concise and accurate meeting minutes promptly after the meeting. The chair should also ensure that he has clearly outlined item actions or action items, including responsibilities and timelines for follow-up, ensuring accountability. So these are 5 ways of planning and conducting board meetings. Number 1, there ought to be clear agenda, timely distribution of information before the meeting, materials that are required for the meeting. The company can make use of technology, efficient use of technology, like virtual board meetings. During discussions, every board member should participate actively, active participation. Then lastly, post-meeting follow-up. Post-meeting follow-up. Those are 5 ways, 10 marks. 5 ways, 10 marks. 5 ways, 10 marks. So that will be 10. How many marks? 10 marks. So we answered the case study that was examined in April 2022. Part A of this question: explain 6 common board efficiencies that might cause failure at HGS. 12 marks. These are 12 marks. Then part B: under each of the 4 stages of organizational failure, discuss board dynamics which could be present in the boardroom of the failed supermarkets. Part B. Part B, 1, 2, 3. So these are 8 marks. Part B, 8 marks. So you have 12 plus 8 is 20. Then part C, part C Roman 1. This is part C Roman 1. We have how many marks? Part C Roman 1. Part C Roman 1, 4 marks. These are 4 marks. Then part C Roman 2, 6 marks. These are 6 marks. Then D, 10 marks, giving us a total of 40 marks. So those are the suggested solutions. Thank you for attending the lesson. Starting from the next lesson, I'll be attempting question 2, then question 3, 4, then lastly question 5. We are going to answer all the questions just as we have done in other sittings. Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye.